on immigrants. Its economy depends upon immigrants, believe me. In the 2000 census, and there was analysis of the 2000 census done by the Brookings Institution a year or so after that. And that showed that on Long Island during the 1990s, the population increased by 144,000 people. 123,000 of those 144,000 people were people who immigrated to Long Island directly from their country of origin. In other words, they didn't go live in the city for a period of time, they moved here directly. That's 82 or 83% of the entire population increase of Long Island during the 1990s were immigrants. Now, post 9/11, the immigration policies changed, but the 2010 census is likely to find a similar result, that Long Island's economy depends much more on legal immigration, the full range of immigration, than native Long Islanders really think. The studies have shown that the immigrant population of Long Island is now injecting billions of dollars into the local economy. So immigration is not an issue for big cities. We have more immigration on Long Island than a city like Philadelphia has. Immigration is a Long Island issue, which means that the way in which you handle immigration and immigrants, both legal and undocumented, is very important. You've got to integrate into the economy as rapidly, as effectively as you can, the documented and legal immigrants. You've got to increase their skills. You've got to help them get better jobs in the economy because they are the workforce increasingly. And with respect to undocumented immigrants, you have to handle the situation that has been given to us by the lack of federal solution to this problem. You've got to handle it in a way that, number one, is humane, number two, balances the interests of the broad interests of the community from a social standpoint and an economic standpoint. I don't think personally, I think you can't make a convincing argument that we don't need the work that is done by those undocumented immigrants. I think you can't make that argument. I think we do need the work that they do. Can they be a drain on social resources and government resources? Yeah, they can be. But does that mean that we treat those people in an inhumane way? Worst possible thing you could do. You don't want Long Island to become known as a place of intolerance. You just don't want that to happen. I'll just finish that point by using an example that I've used many times. Most of you here, or all of you, most of you were probably paying attention to the world in 1978, 32 years ago. If I use the name Skokie, Illinois, how many of you would recognize Skokie, Illinois? And what do you identify with? What? Racism. Now, we're, 11 or 1,200 miles away from Skokie, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. It's 32 years later, and when I ask you, what do you think of when you think of Skokie, Illinois, you say racism. You know why? Nothing happened in Skokie, Illinois. Nothing. In 1978, a neo-Nazi organization petitioned to march down the main street of Skokie, Illinois on July 4th. The community rose up against it, went to federal court, and was successful in blocking that march. But in the time it took for that to happen, Skokie, Illinois received so much negative publicity, and people say, well, this person's a racist and that person's a racist, that the entire nation identified Skokie, Illinois as a place of intolerance, a place of racial hatred. And it so seeped into this country that 32 years later, when I ask you what you think of as Skokie, Illinois, you think of racism. So now imagine if Long Island really did have bad incidents of racism, like the killing of Marcelo Marcero. I'm just missing his name. Marcelo was, the young Ecuadorian who was killed. Sorry, I just found his name. That kind of incident, and the publicity that it generated for Long Island, and the documentaries that came out of it, the coverage that was on CNN and other world, does a lot of damage. And it's not damage that it's easy to, as I just demonstrated with Skokie, Illinois, it's not damage that you can unwind easily. So the manner in which this community treats those folks is critically important to its own future. They have to be treated. It's a legal problem. It's a social problem. And if you're living next to a house with 50 guys in it and cars all over the place and everything, you're not going to be happy about it, and that's understandable. But the manner in which, as a community, we treat undocumented immigrants, I think, is critically important to the long-term future of Long Island. Any other questions? Well, thank you all for coming. I appreciate it, and I hope you all have a good week.
2010 is upon us, and we're in it. It doesn't look that good, but small business is always resilient. We've made it out of many recessions before. I've been in business since 1969, so I've seen many recessions. And there are some good things as well as there are some challenging things. But small business is the backbone of this country and the backbone of Long Island, and I'm sure we'll be able to overcome everything that we have to in order to be more successful. We need to get some of our projects going that we have here on Long Island. We have a lot of different issues, tax issues. Nassau County is facing huge deficits. But we're sure that this too shall pass and that we will have a good business. And thank God for the LIA. For the Small Business Council here has been going on for many years and is here to help businesses get through these trying times. So 2010, maybe the forecast doesn't look so good, but we've got our umbrellas and we've got our smiles.
Well, this is going to be a year in which the economy will begin to recover. It may take a while. So during the course of the year, you have to maintain the same strategies that you've been employing up to this point. You've got to keep your costs down. You've got to look for new opportunities. You've got to be sure you're out there. You have to market. You have to advertise. You have to put yourself in a position so that when the economy starts to come back up, you're going to be well situated to not only recover your full business, but even to grow competitively. You need to do all those things until, well, the boats really start to rise as one. If you can do all of those things during 2010, I think by certainly this time next year in 2011, or hopefully earlier than that, your business will really start to recover.
And also, sir, your comments on 16 years of heading up the SBC and the progress of the Small Business Council within the LIA.
I've seen a lot of change in the small business community during these sound effects here.
A lot of change. There's an earthquake.
Like, yeah, the thunder and the... I've seen a lot of change in the small business community since I came here, because when I came here, Grumman was just going through that process of shrinking from 38,000 to 2,800 employees. So many more small businesses were created as a result of that. It diversified the economy. It gave us a stronger small business base than we had before. I think the importance of small business on Long Island is much more recognized now than it was then. All kinds of small businesses, including not-for-profit small businesses, which are also an important part of the economy. I think all of that is better understood, better recognized now. I think the business community as a whole recognizes and understands much better now than it did 16 years ago that our collective future depends upon the strength and the health of the small business community.